Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha. Russia's latest attack on Ukraine this past weekend has pushed the war into another phase, with Moscow firing an Oreshnik intermediate-range missile near Kyiv alongside one of the heaviest drone and missile barrages since the full-scale invasion began. While Ukraine says civilians, museums, and vital infrastructure were hit, Kremlin insists it targeted military facilities in retaliation for Ukrainian strikes inside Russia. Joining us now is Elena Davlikanova, analyst and fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
I mean, launching this hypersonic missile, it's, I believe, the third time this has been done by Russia. Putin has said not that long ago that he is trying to end this war. So what kind of message was he sending there on Sunday?
I believe the message is, as usual, that Russia is not going to negotiate in good faith. This was a demonstration of power after a very weak military parade on the 9th of May, which usually was a very big event to project power. This year, President Zelensky actually issued a decree allowing to conduct such a parade in Moscow because there was a very long negotiation between Russia, United States, and then Kyiv. So after all that, probably Russia felt offended. And I would not use the word retaliation, because this war has been dragging since 2014. The full-scale invasion was launched in 2022 without any reason. So whatever Russia is doing is just another terrorist attack against civil population.
I'm also curious. I mean, we've had daily reports almost of President Zelensky now in his nightly address. He has also said that Ukraine, I'm quoting here, speaking here, that he has made, that Ukraine has made frontline situation even better, favorable to Ukraine. So given this, what we've seen here on the weekend, what do you make of the president's word? Is Ukraine making progress?
Yes, absolutely. Since the beginning of this year, Ukraine armed forces managed to liberate almost 600 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. It is clear to everyone that there is a stalemate. Basically, Russia will not be able to capture more territory, and being stuck, Kremlin is trying to undermine Ukrainian resolve from within. This is why they organized this catastrophic winter. It was genocidal. Kremlin believes that this will break Ukrainian spirit, that Ukrainians will go to the streets, that they will press the government to agree to Moscow very unjust negotiation conditions, which would actually result in Ukraine's capitulation and later complete elimination. So this is not going to happen. Every time after each attack like that, when it is truly very, very scary, it's horrific, it's an Armageddon, but every time when it finishes, Ukrainians feel even more resolved to never give up. We hate our enemies even more. So I don't think that this strategy will actually give the result that Kremlin is looking for.
Well, Elena, you've mentioned there that Russia is trying to undermine that resolve of Ukraine, but at the same time, we have reports of also Ukraine responding. If we look at the Belgorod region just some hours ago, what do you make of those attacks and Ukraine striking back? I believe these are power and water facilities. Tell us a bit more about this. Will we see more of this?
Well, it is very good that Ukraine has finally managed to enlarge building its mid and long-range capabilities. Ukrainians have been saying this for years, that the best negotiation approach with Russia is force. And given that Ukraine is currently capable to reach out a lot of targets, like ports, for example, refineries, and first of all, military targets, this is, I think, the only way to make Russia actually sit at the negotiation table and actually talk seriously, because Russia has never been serious about negotiations. They expect the change of government in Ukraine. I don't know what exactly they expecting, because people who might come will not be less pro-Ukrainian or more pro-Russian. So in my understanding, Moscow understand that, and moreover, the commander of the unmanned systems forces of Ukraine, Robert Brody, already reported that for 5 months in a row, Ukrainian armed forces are destroying more Russian soldiers than Russians are able to mobilize. So, in my opinion, this is kind of Moscow's attempt to achieve the goals that it just cannot achieve militarily.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned, Elena, that Russia is not serious in negotiations, but at the same time, we also have information that President Zelensky saying that there is a renewed type of expectation that the U.S. has got a proposal on diplomacy will be resumed. What do you make of that comment? Do you think that there'll be more of a return of Russia and the United States to the negotiation table?
Well, as of now, we have been all watching this dance around negotiations, which in reality were just Putin's attempt to play with the President of the United States. Europeans were never allowed to join the negotiation table or influence negotiations anyhow. And in parallel, Moscow was trying to capture more territory, was terrorizing Ukrainian civilians, killing more people. So I think that they are not against negotiations per se. What I'm trying to say that they were never very serious in reaching the middle ground in these peace negotiations. They came every time with maximalist demands, which were unreasonable completely. And whenever Ukraine was offering something more or less workable, Russians they always sabotaged this peace process. And the only obstacle to peace is in Kremlin.
Mm-hmm. And what do you make of this? I mean, we were covering this some days ago, of a kind of a European front. I mean, the Europeans haven't been directly involved in those negotiations. There is some idea of floating a special envoy. We're not quite sure who that would be, if that's going to be accepted. But what do you think Europe's role in all this? Will they be involved in the next few months? What do you make of it?
Well, Ukraine actually hopes that finally Europeans get presented at the negotiation table. We see how the position of the United States has changed since the new administration came to power. So Ukraine does need allies. I guess yesterday or the day before yesterday, Alexander Stubb hinted that he could be a negotiator from the European Union side. But what is even more important than choosing a person who will represent Europeans is what exactly we are all standing for. So the position between Ukraine and Europeans has to be consolidated, unified. Ukraine has come up with its own plans, or the peace plan that currently no one is talking about. Of course, it has changed since then. So I think that we also need to focus on the conditions that Ukraine and Europe will be standing for when talking to Russians.
Mm-hmm. And what we're standing for in terms of the European directive, I mean, that's also something that's interesting to point out. But I just want to get the sense, because we've seen some pictures there of President Macron of France. Now, he's warned also Belarus of not getting directly engaged into the war against Ukraine. We know that they've done some sort of let's say, new exercises in the last few days. So what do you make of his warning there to Belarus?
President Zelensky made it public that Russia wants to drag Belarus even more into this war, though Belarus is already a participant of this war because it provides the territory, or provided the territory, for the initial full-scale invasion, which resulted in deaths of many Ukrainians, displacements, torture, and so on. This time, I think Russia, because it cannot achieve any of its military goals on the ground, might think of opening the second front on the north. It would be suicidal. It's absolutely nonsense, because Ukraine, since 2022, created immense fortifications on the north. That is why Zelensky is saying that it might be even a provocation against NATO countries. Currently, we see that there is a certain level of mistrust and disunion in the transatlantic alliance, and some of the military experts believe that this could be used for a provocation. We are not talking about full-scale invasion whatsoever, but these type of terrorist attacks, as Russia is organizing against the Ukrainian civilian cities, they might think of something of a kind as well. So we do not know what exactly they are planning, but I think that Kremlin still believes that they will use this year to try and break Ukrainians. So in my opinion, maybe only next year we might have serious peace negotiations.
But also on the same time, I mean, we started with this, and I want to get your sense again and your view. We've also had harsh declarations from Kaja Kallas, the chief diplomat of the EU, also the head of the Commission, all condemning the use of this Oreshnik, calling it nuclear brinkmanship. Do you expect anything more tangible than just words from the Europeans out of this point, from what we've heard in the last 24 hours?
Well, we have heard a lot of words from Europeans. We haven't seen much reaction from Russians. I think that this was a demonstration of power in terms of being able to still reach some of the targets in Ukraine, which is has the most saturated multi-tier anti-air systems, which Europeans do not have. So, in my opinion, it was also a message to Europeans, like, look what we can do. Are you ready for this type of attacks? I don't think that Europeans are ready. Though this initiative of the drone wall has been finally launched, and by the way, it will never be successful without Ukraine included. I think that Russia never was very serious about European resolve and also military capabilities. So we will see whether they will actually take the European presence at the negotiation table seriously at all.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to point out to our audience, just briefly before we end, this Oreshnik, this hypersonic missile, the third time that it was used by Russia. Why is this such, let's say, an important use of the Russians? What does this mean psychologically, but also militarily for Russia using it?
Well, this is a carrier of nuclear warheads. Russia never used nuclear warheads, but it demonstrates what Oreshnik is capable of doing. Moreover, even without nuclear warheads, the application of Oreshnik is, let's say, spectacular, because it's very scary when you watch the videos how exactly this weapon is being used. So it covers a pretty big area. And I believe that currently it's more a psychological operation against Ukrainians and against Europeans, because we all need to understand that Russians understand only the language of force. This is the language that they are using against all of us. So unless we also demonstrate that we are not afraid to retaliate, to respond in kind, Russians will not stop. They will stop only where they will be stopped. And right now, Europe is already at war with Russia. If you look at the hybrid operations that, or sub-threshold warfare operations that Russia is conducting everywhere, all across Europe, in hundreds and thousands of such operations since 2022. I think that we need to, get together and be way more serious, not only in assessing what kind of threat Russia is long term, but what exactly we are ready to do right now with regards to the sub-threshold warfare operations, to demonstration of military power, as with Oreshnik, and also, for example, with Shadow Fleet, which is not Shadow.
I'm going to have to just jump in there. Sorry about that, Elena. I mean, really interesting things. And as you said, devastating firepower, but at the same time, Ukraine is also responding. We'll close it there. Elena Davlikanova, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Thank you.